Hey there, this is Chad from Zombified Shark, and this is the final episode of our Thor walkthrough series, where we've literally covered every single knob and button and slider that Thor has. And this very last episode is an exhibition and an explanation of some of those things in action. So we're going to listen to a short piece, kind of a down-tempo piece that I put together using multiple Thors, and then we're going to explain what's going on and how some of the routing is going on and how I've taken advantage of many of the things that we've talked about over the course of the series. So enjoy this piece of music, and then afterwards we'll explain it. Cheers. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. So let's look at some of the routing and what's going on here. First and foremost, the core of this is this sequencer I built, and which I broke my rules. I wasn't originally even going to use a mixer. I was going to do it all through Thor, but too many tracks. It was just easier to use a mixer and kind of dumb to not use one because it could have easily done everything I did using two Thors in its place of this mixer, but I don't think have to prove the point. I think if you've watched the videos up to this point, then you're fully aware that that's a possibility of using Thor as a mixer. I mean, not a very good mixer to be honest, but it certainly will get the job done. So you'll just have to forgive me for using a mixer. So we've got a kick sequence, which I've made a basic kind of 808 kick. And I've used a mod envelope to modulate the pitch so it sweeps down really quickly. And so that's a common trick, sweeping the pitch right there at the beginning of the attack. So there's the mod envelope. To get a kind of clicky attack. There's other ways to do it, but that's a common one you see. Then I've got my snare sequence here, which is just, I just put it on the on the two, or excuse me, on the three rather. And at the end of the track, you might have noticed that the delay kicks on, and the delay is actually triggered by the pad mute. So if you see here, which I did in the combinator, so I hit the pad mute, the delay came on, and then turns off. So so that was just a little, that's a combinator routing trick, but you know, it's a routing trick. Hi-hats, nothing fancy here. This is just, you know, I have a little delay on them, but, you know, nothing crazy. Then this sequencer melody, I got a little fancy with it. So it is most of the time, let's see, unmute it here. So most of the time it sounds like that, but I do have this trigger set up where it triggers the shaper, and I wanted it to, I didn't end up doing exactly what I wanted it to, but I've got this LFO2 is affecting the shaper drive amount. So it's the square wave, so it's bang, 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 going up and down, up and down. And then LFO1 is affecting the LFO2 rate. So LFO1 is sweeping the rate of LFO2 up. So when you hit this trigger, so it will, and it might not be doing it because it's not playing, but it just kind of, it's not random, but it almost feels random the way that it, and you'll hear, you can listen back to that track and you can hear the way it adjusts the pitch. And I'll include MP3 of the track and bundled up with all the patches that you can download from my site, link below. The bass sequence, very simple. You know, the trick when you're using such a short loop is making sure everything is in, you know, if you want to change chords, everything's gotta, you know, be in the same key. So I made that bass real simple. And it's just a bloop bloop. So not a whole lot going on there. Other than I do have LFO1 routed to oscillator 2's position, so it just changes the timbre a little bit. So then my pad sequence is a little bit fancier because I wanted I wanted some movement in the chords. So how did I do that? So I've got my three oscillators and this one, so octave 4, then this one, excuse me, I should be pointing at the detuning, so semi 0, then this one's a 5th, and then this one's a 3rd, so a minor 3rd. So I'm making a chord from my pads here, and then I've just, as a note, LFO2, going to the panning, just to try to get a little panning action going there. And so here I've got my sequencer running. I've slowed it down to a really slow rate, and then these are all my chords. So C, G, A, and F. And originally I had played with the idea of trying to get the chords to modulate from major to minor, which isn't actually that hard to do. And you could probably do it with just messing with the curve here, and then routing your curve to oscillator 3 semitone, but I didn't like the chord changes, so I stuck with they're all minor chords. But anyways, so that's how I got my chord changes there. And then just to add a little bit of body to it here at the end, this is just basic rhythm sequence, and nothing going on here that's real special. Just got a sound, and then I have a little sequence here. So that's all there was to that one. So then following that one, I have the I had said I was gonna do some moving knobs. So I only did it on one sound right there at the beginning of it, but here's how you make the knobs move in your piece and in your device. So I have in all of this, I didn't even need to use a combinator, but this is how you do it. If you want to see the knobs move on their own, this is how you do it. So I've routed out all my CVs into my combinator CVs right here, and then in the programmer of my combinator, I'm only using 3 of them, not even using 4, but CV1, and I've got it oscillator 1 tune. So let's see. So there it goes. All right, so let's watch this in action here. Oscillator 1 tune, oscillator 1 and 2 balance, which is moving right now. Then rotary 1, and then filter 2 drive. So rotary 1, filter 2 drive. And I wanted the reason I have rotary 1 going, I wanted this my y-axis here. I wanted to see it move, and you can't program it directly from the combinator. The combinator doesn't have every single knob option, but you can program it to the rotaries from. You can program everything from inside the modulation matrix. So I've got my rotary controlling my Y, and then my CV controlling my rotary. So you can kind of watch all those things move. There, there, there. So that was it. I mean, there's a lot of fanciness just to make those knobs move, but hey, I said I was gonna do it, so I did it. And then worth mentioning the global envelope. I have it. That's what I have routing to CV out. So that's what's moving the drive up and down here. And then the rest of them are LFOs. And I like to do a lot with LFOs, if you can't tell. Okay, so now let's look at I've got some one-shots and I got some arpeggios over here. So I got this button trigger, I called it button trigger arpeggio. And I have the C-1, C#-1, -2. C-2 triggers the actual arpeggio. And then C# triggers the filter LFO. And so that... So you can hear this filter sweep up. Got a very Stranger Things vibe to it. So just like that. And the filter, that sweep up is, or that sweep, shut up. That sweep is being controlled by LFO2. So sweeping up and down there. And then you probably noticed when I triggered it, it actually set off this vocal trigger one shot. So, see, there it goes. And if you've been watching the episodes, so I got to use my start of sequence out into the gate in trigger. Still, that end of sequence out, I still just can't figure out a use for it. But I'm sure somebody can leave me a comment and tell me, because it's YouTube. So anyways, so that's how I triggered that. And then I've done some stuff with LFOs, moving the positions, because I was, trying to do kind of a voice sound, and so with mixed success. It's as much about about moving the positions here and using a formant filter as it is anything, when you're trying to kind of fake a human voice with options that you have here. But I was okay with the way it sounded. Wasn't looking for an authentic human voice. So you can kind of look at all that stuff and see for yourself, and all that'll be bundled up in the free download. Then my button trigger arpeggio, this is a sequence. I didn't go crazy with this sequence. It's just notes mostly. But it is but I did send CV1 out into CV1 in my slave arpeggio, and then my note and gate on my step sequencer CV out is going into the CV in on this, because this that has no sequence. This there were no notes programmed for the slave arpeggio. Everything is being sent from the master arpeggio right here. So all I did was just design the sound, and then route it. And the CV, the reason I did that is I'm controlling the volume. And there's just one little volume automation, so I could bring it in slowly and quietly. So I'm controlling the gain from here. I've automated the gain there. You can see the green square around it. And we'll switch back real quick. When it initially enters, I've got this kind of slow build, and that slow build is also controlling that's the slave arpeggios gain in their entry into the piece of music as well. And then in terms of I did do a little bit here. I used this LFO1 on the amp input, and filter to frequency, and then CV and 1 amp gain. So that happened. Filter to frequency. So it's just messing around with this here a little bit. Nothing special. And I think that's everything. So a lot of moving parts going on there. I certainly didn't use all the tricks that we talked about. I didn't touch the mod wheel on anything, but I think we certainly used a lot of them. So I hope you have enjoyed this series. I have certainly learned a lot at making it, and please leave me your comments below and let me know what you thought, and let me know if you'd like to see more of this type of thing. Like and subscribe if you've appreciated this series or any other content that I make. Like I said, you can download all these patches from zombiefightshark.com. There'll be a link in the address below. And I hope that this helps you make great music. Please share the music you've made with me. I love hearing what people do with their newly acquired knowledge. So until next time, thanks for watching. Cheers.